This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Hello and welcome back. This is Now Breakfast here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name is Nabila Usman here with my co-host Stephen Imediegu. And today, the Newsmaker, we take a look at the sustainability of manufacturing in Nigeria. It's one of the elephants in the room today amidst rising costs across the board, be it diesel, petrol, electricity, import duty, or raw materials. Our Newsmaker today is the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Segun Ajayi Kadir. Mr. Ajayi Kadir joins us to discuss the plight of the manufacturing sector in the country. Hello and welcome, Mr. Ajayi Kadir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I'd like us to start from the most recent thing that's happened, actually, with the increase of electricity tariffs for people who fall under Band A. I mean, I don't know if you have a figure for how many manufacturers actually fall under Band A across the country. Speak to us on the impact of this on the sector.
Well, okay. I think your first question seems to hit the nail on the head and is requiring me to respond to what I am certain that even all the discos across the country are not very certain. Band A, from our understanding, is categorized as people who enjoy more than 20 hours or more electricity supply per day. As we speak, I'm not certain of any member of man that fully enjoys 24 hours and above. So I believe that the issues of who belongs to Band A is still being sorted out, and the subsequent other regulations and clarifications that NEC has been making speaks to the fact that there's yet need for more clarity on those who belong there. But that is the first matter. The second matter is the fact that even when you do have manufacturers who belong to this band, there is need for us to re-examine the appropriateness of the 225 naira charge, because it needs to speak to what constitutes the cost structure and whether we are not paying for the inefficiency or incapacity of the discos or any institution for that matter along the power value chain. Hopefully that may not be what we are paying for. So there's still need for a lot of clarity, because the 225 naira is obviously on the high side and it was quite unexpected. You can imagine a jump from 68 to 225. Whilst manufacturers are obviously ready to pay for power that we have, I think we still need to have a conversation around the appropriateness of the 225 naira.
Well, cost is definitely something that plays a huge role as far as manufacturing is concerned in Nigeria. But I want you to give us, let's say we step back a month and look at how manufacturing has been going on in the country. Were there any challenges that have been worsened by this hike in the price of electricity?
Of course. I think if you would ask, the two leading challenges that manufacturers have is infrastructure and electricity ranks high. In fact, virtually ranks the highest. And the other one too is smuggling, which is the influx of goods that unfairly compete with domestic products. That's apart from multiplicity of taxes and levies, the inefficiency at the ports, the insecurity that disturbs our sourcing raw materials and our logistics. And there are also the issues of regulation, the cost of regulation and the distraction that it brings, quite a number of issues. But in the last month, we have also had the escalation of the cost of of diesel, which is the alternative energy that most of us resort to in the face of inadequate supply from the discos. We've also had seriously impacting our business the insecurity that has limited our capacity to fully operate. So when you situate the latest hike in within this context, you will see that it is causing a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty, and if implemented, it is going to affect the capacity utilization of manufacturers. It is going to increase the costs of our manufacturing and make us all competitive when you compare us with products that come from low cost environment. Remember that we are entering the AFCFTA. Remember also that even in our domestic markets, we compete with alternative imports. So it's going to render us to be not cost effective, and is going to really affect probably even the number of shifts you are going to run, and you will have redundancy in terms of the human and material resource that we use.
Mr. Ajayi Kadir, we understand that access to FX is also one of the challenges manufacturers face. And just last week, you granted an interview where you said that that manufacturers in the country lost 1.5 trillion naira in the last 6 months due to forex related transactions. Can you speak to us first on that number, that 1.5 trillion naira, and how you were able to collate these losses?
Okay, so thank you very much, because that's also a very significant challenge that we've had, and I think it was compounded by the floating of the naira, the floating of the exchange rate amidst the significant reduction in the foreign earnings of Nigeria as a country. So we came by that figure by a combination of so many factors. One, and I'm sure it has been in the news for a while now, about the forwards that were not honored by the CBN, which was to the tune of $2.4 billion. Some of our members are impacted, and this has been on for, even in some cases, more than 12 months. This means that the accounts that you have concluded, you are yet to have the forwards fully met by the CBN. Also, in addition, so we incurred some costs in that, in terms of payment of interest rate on the naira and even the dollar components. There's also the issue of what we have lost in terms of a calculation in business as to when you source your forex, because even in the midst of all of this, you don't source up to 30% of your needs from the R&E window. So you still have to resort to the parallel market or black market, whichever one you choose to use. We suffer that. Then also in terms of payment of duty, which was calculated at the prevailing rate, and even now that it's said that we should be calculated at the prevailing rate when you raise your Form M, there is still the issue of non-compliance, and even the fact that if you use that rate, it's still very high. And we had recommended a freeze on the rate for calculating for assessment of import duty, because it directly affects the cost of our products.
You've raised a series of things, and I want to start from the very beginning with the unmet FX forwards, right? The central bank says that these are unverified claims. In fact, the central bank says that it has already met its own obligation and has done so based on the claims that they were actually able to verify. So if some of your members fall under that classification by the central bank of unverified claims, what's your reaction to it? And if at all there is some lapse or the other in the process, what exactly is going on there?
Okay, so I think let me first say that we are consulting with the CBN, and we are hopeful that we'll be able to resolve this matter, because it's a very, very serious issue. Now, the CBN indicated its objection, which is normal, about the transaction. First, let us say that these are concluded transactions. They are not fresh. It's not an issue of applying for FX, and then in the process of application, you are told that your application is not valid. These are concluded businesses. In some cases, those raw materials, let me use manufacturing as an example, those materials have been imported, you have used it to produce, you have sold. In some cases, you have closed the account for the year because you have 12 calendar months. So when you now say the process of acquiring the forex was invalid, are you trying to say you are aborting a pregnancy after the child has been the mother has delivered just because she didn't fill her maiden name correctly? It's not thinkable. So if there are infractions, and I think the CBN rightly raised those issues, the banks rightly responded. I don't know if you also covered the conversation we had with the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, where stakeholders explained to her the process. The banks were there, and they said they fully responded to the issues that were raised by the CBN. So, what the issues that we are contending with are issues that should be resolved between the banks, the commercial banks, and the CBN. We shouldn't suffer because we have fully discharged our responsibilities. We submitted the forms, the application, and all the processes that we are obliged to do. There were no objections from the CBN at that time. Now we have concluded. Now we have done our bit. Now we have repatriated the profit. Now we have moved on with our business. And you are asking us to come back and take our money. Money to where?
So I'm now curious about the impact it has had for your members and their suppliers on the other end who are waiting for the forwards to be met. What is at stake at the moment?
My dear sister, it is catastrophic. When the report of our first quarter is out, you will be amazed as to how negatively this has impacted the business of our members. And you see, the painful thing here is that we need not go through this process. It is avoidable, it is curable. So I believe that, like I said, we are still having this conversation with the CBN. Unfortunately, when the two elephants fight, the grass suffers. So if there is an issue with our banks and the CBN, they are the experts, they should sort it out. Manufacturers, we are not in the business of sourcing dollars and exchange rate and the rest. We manufacture. That is what we know how to do. And we follow regulations. Once we have followed the regulations, once we have given what we are asked to do, we should be saved. There are too many things we are dealing with. We should just be saved this distraction. And it is hitting the bottom line. That is the issue. Some of us have incurred up to 5 billion naira. Quite a number of us are not even able to make new orders now. In some cases, because you have not been able, the cost you have incurred makes a nonsense of your trying to produce with the new orders that you are making.
You mentioned earlier the request by manufacturers for the CBN to to place a moratorium on the process of obtaining Form M, and the fact that the current policy says that the rate will be pegged at whatever the exchange is for that particular day that you acquired the form, and then you made your purchase orders, you put them in. How is that conversation going? Does it seem like the bank is willing to revise its stance on this?
Okay, so even the directive or the order, I don't know what to say now, that it should be charged at the rate when the Form M is raised. I've earlier on mentioned that is not even being followed to the letter. And as a matter of fact, even if that is done, it is way too high for us. You see, manufacturing is different from other business. It's not trading. it has a value chain, it has a process, and it has competition even in the domestic market, not to talk of being able to export. So the way you deal with these challenges have to take into cognizance the environment that manufacturing takes place. So we are, and like I said, we are engaging with the CBN. We have assurances that we are going to be able to resolve some of these issues because they are quite technical issues, and we can understand why the CBN is in this situation. I mean, because if everybody relies on you to give dollars and you don't have it, I mean, there's a tendency for you to want to be. There's a tendency for you to be overwhelmed and for you to want to do your best. I mean, to be able to make of a bad situation. But yes, but while that is done, we should be mindful of creating a crisis that even when you now resolve these issues, you will have created a much bigger one. So the conversation is on, and I believe that with time, we should be able to resolve it because all of us should be interested in what happens to manufacturing sector, which has the highest capacity for growth, for promoting growth in the economy.
Mr. Kadri, to talk about something in the manufacturing sector that has captured our eyes and our attention for a while, you recently gave an interview where you were talking about the need for a balanced regulatory environment. I want you to expand on that a little in terms of how customers can help or consumers can help manufacturers get a better sense of the effects of their product on the consumers themselves.
Okay, thank you very much, because this question speaks to what we expect of the average Nigerian. You see, manufacturing is a very tough business in Nigeria. It is very, very difficult, believe me. You are competing with products from environments that have less cost. Additionally, there are so many distractions: insecurity, regulation, taxation, and so on and so forth. So if there's empathy on the part of the citizen, if there's a realization that this is the situation we face, we shouldn't have an additional burden of being discredited of our products that, of course, meet standards, because we have regulatory agencies and we have Nigerian standards that are globally accepted and which we meet. So there is no need to suffer us with the distractions of discrediting our product, of not valuing made in Nigeria products and preferring other products from other climes just based on some perceptions that are not patriotic and that are not helpful. So when we mentioned the issue of balanced regulation, what we are saying is that the regulators should not only focus on protecting the customers alone, they should also focus on protecting the producers, because we should be protected from unjust media and social media trial. A situation where a member's product is fully certified and of good quality, and then a consumer, for whatever reason, decides to vilify that producer, and in the process demarket it, if not rubbish his image and reputation, is unfair, and it should be the concern of the regulator.
Now,
we fully
Mr. Kadri,
subscribe to the rights. Yes,
I do apologize for interrupting you, but to bring this a little closer to home, Risco Foods is a company that has seen some criticism on social media because of its handling of the case of a consumer who talked about the taste of the product and asked other people to verify if that taste, if her opinion was correct. And I'm putting this on the one hand because what it calls for is more attention to the product. On the other side, we've seen consumers, customers, well-wishers, Nigerians, talk about innocent vehicles, innocent IVM, do everything from designing concept cars for it to designing logos, offering free appraisals of these products. Now, in this particular case of Erisco Foods, isn't the company running the risk? Isn't the manufacturer running the risk of giving up an opportunity to actually explain why their product is unique versus prosecuting a consumer who had you could call it a valid concern about the taste of a product that they purchased with their own money?
Okay, thank you again for this unique opportunity. I had actually intervened in this matter because the regulatory agency performed their role well. The Lagos State Consumer Protection Agency called the two parties together, embarked on an independent investigation of the product completely without any form of influence by Erisco. They invited the two parties and they gave a valid conclusion that the product met the required quality. Standards Organization of Nigeria was involved, was engaged by the Consumer Protection Agency, Lagos State Consumer Protection Agency, and this was fully certified. Now, what did the consumer complain about? He said two major things. One, that this thing is just all sugar. And two, that it is killing people. That is not an observation. When you say killing people, there is no evidence of anyone who has been killed. The producer of the product mentioned specifically on the product that it contains sugar. So what else are you expecting to see inside? Is it salt? So there was no reason for that sensational reporting. And consistently, I'm aware, and you can check with the police and the courts. You can check with the police and the police station that they went to, and even the regulatory agency, the Lagos State Consumer Protection Agency, that they were severally invited. The lady didn't show up. So when Erisco, I believe it was when Erisco saw that this thing was gaining ground and he was losing face, his foreign suppliers who give him credit lines are beginning to wonder whether they should continue to do it, and the man was going to lose his business. He resorted to probably self-help. I'm not fully conscious of how the event later went with the police and the rest, and I think the legal process actually should take care of that, whether it was right or wrong. But I'm concerned about the quality of the product and the integrity of the manufacturer vis-a-vis protecting the rights and well-being of the consumer. Man is completely behind consumer satisfaction. And all our members are aware that if you cross the line, we sanction you and we even hand you over to the regulatory agencies. Before you became man, you are first and foremost a Nigerian. And that one, we don't get it twisted at all. But in this instance, Erisco met its own part of the bargain and should not be unjustly vilified. I'm very proud of what you said about Innocent. Innocent is another member of mine and is completely aligned to our objective of giving Nigeria satisfaction such that they will be able to patronize products that are made in Nigeria, because it is the wise thing to do. Our products meet standards, and if you don't buy our own, we will not prosper.
Well, that's definitely a good point that we could pause this on. And I say pause because, as you have pointed out, the case between Erisco and Chioma Egodi is still ongoing. It's an ongoing process. But I would like to ask, as we wrap this up, sir, if we are talking about consumer satisfaction, isn't social media as well an opportunity for companies, manufacturers in Nigeria to continue inviting the Nigerian into the conversation about improved products? This is not a criticism of anybody, but is social media being properly utilized by manufacturers in Nigeria to show the Nigerian this is our product and it competes at the same level with every other product in the same market in the world?
Yes, I think many of our members are doing so, doing so, but as to whether there's room for improvement, absolutely. I mean, it's a win-win for us. It's a win for Nigeria. It's a win for manufacturer. It's a win for the consumer. So we will continue to do more. We'll continue to encourage our members to also take our good case, and certainly we have good case, to the public domain, such that we are able to produce for Nigerians to enjoy, to be satisfied with, and to be proud of. We are not dishing out substandard products to Nigerians. We are fully conscious of the need for customer satisfaction, and we should continue to partner with the media, your good selves, and others in the print, electronics, and in the social media using IT and all the new platforms, all the emerging platforms for engaging. I believe that we should continue to do that. Man encourages it, and you raise it again. It means that we need to do more, and we'll certainly do more. We only crave the understanding of Nigerians and even the empathy of Nigerians that we are all in the same boat, and we need to be able to support our own. China is where it is today because it stubbornly and unapologetically directed the citizen to patronize products that are made in Nigeria. This speaks to government people. There is no reason why all government officials do not patronize products that are made in Nigeria. There is even a subsisting executive order 003 that mandates them to give priority to purchasing locally made products. But you yourself, look at the vehicles that our leaders use. Look at the clothes that they wear. Look at the things that they eat, even to the extent of biscuits and so on. All of those, patronage in the army, the boots they use, the uniform they use. You can imagine if all schools, if all our military agencies, their uniforms, their boots, their belts, if they are made in Nigeria, it will improve the fortunes of the textile industry that has been virtually killed by massive influx of textile products, most of which are substandard and do not meet our regulation. Most of it smuggled. So there is need for the citizens and government to wake up to the idea that it is only when you support domestic manufacturing that you can prosper as a nation. There is no nation on earth that is seen to be developed or advanced that does not have a vibrant manufacturing sector, and Nigeria should not be an exception.
Well, Mr. Kadri, thank you very much for speaking with us today on The Newsmaker.
Thank you very much for having me.
Our pleasure. That's our Newsmaker today, the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadri, and he joined us to discuss the current plight of the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria today.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.